Well, good morning. I'm working backwards from the latest uh, one of these video blog posts to perhaps one of the earliest now. But um, but realistically, I just finished watching something, listening to something really uh, that I need to process, and sharing it with you is the best way I can think of doing that. It is Tuesday morning. It is what is it? It's about 12 o'clock actually. um, October 22nd. It is journal number 2003, T+203, headed to the mothership on Thursday for blood work and to see my doc. I'm excited about that because I feel pretty good. But back to what I started talking about a minute ago. I belong to a community, and the central theme of the community is sharing ideas worth spreading. Now, that may sound a bit odd, but it's not really. I mean, there are lots of ideas that are great ideas that languish because nobody is willing or able to share them. But this particular podcast, this particular topic really resonates with me because it's something I've been fighting with my entire life. And I think it's something that all of us fight with. And it is so debilitating, and it's just such an energy drain that I think it's important to talk about it. And in this particular instance, I think it's even more important because Peter Shepard and Jen Waldman, the two folks responsible for this podcast entitled "The Long and the Short of It," which is clever because she's 5'1" and he's 6'7". If you can get that visual, that's worth a laugh or two. But anyway, they're wonderful people, and they did a spectacular job on the podcast. And Shepard's just a great. He was my coach at altMBA, and when it comes to coaching the very best out of you, he was brilliant at that. So let me explain to you what that's all about because I think you're going to recognize it and it's going to resonate for you almost as powerfully, perhaps even more powerfully than it resonated for me. Um, the recognition is that all of us, our entire lives, are fighting with what's come to be known as the imposter syndrome. Um, Oddly enough, years and years ago, when I first started reading again, when I first started reading a lot, again and developed this love I have for management and personal development and leadership, I came across a book that was basically entitled If I'm such a success, why do I feel like such a fraud? Or something close to that. I can't find, I'm looking at the shelf now, I can't find the book. So I'm sure it's up there somewhere. It's in the garage with the books that, second tier books that didn't make it to the bookshelf. So, um, if you have a system for figuring out which of those goes where, then please share it with me because I have yet to find a good system for that. But the imposter syndrome suggests, tries to go ahead and identify and describe that feeling that all of us get when we're faced with something new and different that we are either tasked with, that we've been asked to do, or that we choose to do on our own. And the abject terror that we experience when we realize that, or at least we believe that we're not qualified to do whatever it is that is. Um, if we're asked to give a talk, why would anybody listen to us? If we're asked to write a paper, why would anybody want to read it? If we're asked to get up in front of a group and speak, why would anybody listen? Why won't they just walk out and go to the bathroom? Um, what gives you the right to command attention for whatever it is at that moment? And I think that's something that almost every human being on the planet has experienced. I think it's something that all of us deal with all the time on a regular basis, and it beats us up mercilessly. Um, I went through it when I got up in front of the first group that I ever addressed, and the Give Me Your Tired and Broken Car speech in October of 1984. Um, that moment of terror that said, why would anybody listen? Why would anybody care what I have to say? I'm just a mechanic in Santa Monica who, or a mechanic in Simi Valley, rather, that's angry and upset because his life isn't on track. Um, and if it weren't for the fact that I was so violently angry at the time, that I was so filled with angst and anxiety, I wouldn't have done it. I wouldn't have had the courage to do it. I would have backed away from it. Um, it's the same demon I faced when I was asked if I wanted to write for national trade publications, and went through that torment of thinking to myself, well, who the hell cares what you have to say? Why would anybody care what happened to you in the shop last week? Until you realize that you are everyone, right? That you are the total, um, you are the total synthesis of all of those around you, and share that human experience with everyone. Um, I feel it every time I'm asked to do something I haven't done before or I haven't done often. And to tell you the truth, I feel it every time I'm asked to do anything, quite frankly. I mean, it doesn't really matter what. If I were to get a call tomorrow to say, when you recover and you're able to travel, we want you to come and keynote our event in when August of 2020, um, I would go through the same thing again. What am I going to say? Who's going to care? Why would they listen? Um, but in this particular instance, um, Peter does something that no one who has addressed this before, no one that I've seen address this before has done, and that's give you a technology to cope with it, give you a technology to battle back with it, and part of it is to be expected because part of the community that I'm in um, recognizes and appreciates what they call the resistance, the lizard brain, the amygdala, all of the above. It's a demon known by many different names, like it's our own personal Satan, right? Known by many, many different names, tormenting us all the time. But what Peter suggests is first that you acknowledge it, that you acknowledge that this is happening, that the imposter is talking to you, that the imposter is whispering in your ear, the imposter is saying, "Hey, you shouldn't do this. You're not qualified to do this." Even if you're 90% perfect for this particular opportunity, whatever it is, that other 10% is going to go ahead and sink you like a stone. So he says, acknowledge it, recognize it for what it is, and then dance with it. Embrace it. Embrace it for what it is. Recognize what it's telling you, and then try and figure out why. Why is it doing it? Why is it so intent on keeping you from doing something? Is it because it's important? Is it because it's something that could change your life? Is it something that can take you in a whole new different direction that may lead to incredible success, heretofore unknown success? So the first thing he tells you to do is write down what the imposter syndrome is telling you. Write it down on a piece of paper, or record it into your phone, acknowledge it, listen to it. Listen to it carefully because it's trying to give you a signal. And then he says, respond. Something as simple as that. He said, answer it. Turn around and say, I know you're trying to tell me not to do this, but realistically, either I'm so frustrated and angry I'm going to do it anyway, or I believe the opportunity is too great not to take advantage of, or I think I can do a good job of this, or even, you know, nobody knows that I don't know what I don't know until I tell them. So if I don't tell them, I have as much right to do this as anyone else. So think about that. Think of that. Think about the imposter syndrome. Think about what Peter and Jen had to say on the long and short of it today. It's by the way, it was a very well done podcast. I've subscribed to it subsequently, but it was really good, and I recommend that you do the same. And if it makes sense to you, share it. I know I'm going to write about it for Ratchet and Wrench, for the magazine that I write for, so I can share it with my industry. In the meantime, stay well, take care, and tell me about the dialogue that you have or are about to have or have had with your version of the imposter syndrome. Okay? Till then, stay well, take care.